Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grip Locked, Foundation Disc Golf's weekly podcast. I'm Hunter, normally joined by Konner and Trevor, but they're both gone right now. Konner's on vacation visiting family, and Trevor is hopefully having his kid. So he's at home with his wife. Their due date was a few days ago, so it's happening any day now. So it's very exciting times for them. And obviously, Konner will be back next week. Trevor, I don't know. He claims he's coming back basically ASAP for podcasts and stuff like that. But I'd be surprised if he's back next week. But I am joined by Silas, at least. So I'm not in the studio alone. Yeah. I got Silas here recording.
Hey.
I'll get his opinion on some of the stuff. But for this episode, what I figured I'd do is I'd go over some of the off-season news and stuff like that, like we normally do. We'll talk about it a little bit, give you kind of my take on some of the things, maybe get Silas's take on some of it. And then the parts that would normally be filled by me, Trevor, and Konner, just kind of, I don't know, fluffing it up, throwing in random fillers of tangents that we go on. I figured I would just kind of wrap up 2021 because this is the last episode for Grip Locked in 2021. We didn't want to skip it. That's why we're still here. And wrap up 2021. And also I figured I'd be able to give you a little bit of a behind the scenes look into 2022, what it's going to look like for Foundation, what it's going to look like for Grip Locked, all of that. And some big plans we've got for the upcoming year, some goals we have. So should be a good episode. Should be a little bit of a quicker episode, but finish out the year strong here. But let's just get straight to how we start every show. A little off-season movement going on. First thing, pretty big news coming from Westside Disc's Instagram. This has been rumored behind the scenes a little bit. I had some people DMing me this, but I didn't believe it, and now it has come to fruition. Westside has announced that Westside and Nikko will be parting ways. Not too much information has been provided. One thing that I found interesting, though, is that this is coming from Westside's official Instagram and not from Nikko. I think that's a little bit telling here, just speculation, but Westside's caption says the turn of the new year will usher in a new chapter for Team Westside Disc. Westside Disc and Nikko have made the decision to part ways effective 2022. We would like to thank Nikko for the past 2 years on Team Westside Disc. Nikko's helped grow the Westside brand and has put some amazing performances, including 2 Pro Tour wins at the Preserve and Waco. Nikko is a hardworking and passionate player, and we wish him continued success as he moves on to the next chapter of his disc golf career. Now, why I find this interesting is I feel like in other cases, players have been announcing if they're the ones making the decision that, hey, we're moving on and so forth. Not necessarily the case when Prodigy leaked the Matty O one, but that was a little bit different. So for Westside to post this and also knowing Nikko's history with companies, part of me feels like this is kind of it says it's mutual, but part of me kind of feels like maybe Westside confronted Nikko and's like, hey, we want X, Y, or Z to happen. Nikko's like, nah. And then they were just like, all right, well, it might be best if we split ways. I don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. I did find it interesting, though. And what I'm not sure of, and there seems to be no one's really sure of, is this something where Nikko has something lined up and that's why he's leaving Westside? Like, does he have a sponsorship from Innova or Dynamic? Wouldn't make sense? So it's definitely not Dynamic, Innova or Prodigy or Discraft or something like that. And that's why he's leaving Westside? Or is it a situation where Westside's like, hey, Nikko, kick rocks, get down the road, and now Nikko is just on his own? Definitely will be interesting. Silas, if you had to put your money, where, if anywhere, does Nikko end up in 2022?
Yeah. Well, we said this kind of on debate night, but Nikko's, what was it, uncle?
I think his uncle owns or his
has
uncle's
some
very
affiliation with Gateway.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go Gateway because of that fact.
Yeah. That's a great guess. Nikko definitely his career kind of started with Gateway. He used to putt with Wizards for a long time. That was actually a point of contention when he went to some other companies. It's like he refused to take the Wizard out of his bag. So I definitely could see him going back with Gateway. But that's what I was saying, like Nikko's past is like he's jumped around. He's probably been sponsored by more companies than any other player in the history of disc golf because he went from Gateway. I don't think he's been with Innova, but he's been with Gateway, Prodigy, Westside. I think at one point he was with Prodigy and Dynamic Disc, kind of when like everyone was sponsored by Dynamic Disc back in the day before they became a manufacturer. And then I think he was with like Daredevil disc, and there might have been like one more snuck in there. He's jumped around quite a bit, and it's been very interesting because he's been at the top level of the game for over a decade now. And for some reason, it seems like he's the player that hasn't been able to hold down a sponsor. And how much of that is Nikko's fault and how much of that is the media and fans' fault for holding Nikko more accountable than the rest of the field at times for his actions? Who knows? But it's definitely something interesting to keep an eye on as we head into 2022. The other thing that's interesting to keep an eye on in 2022 is Kevin Jones was recently on Johnny Discgolf's interview. I guess you can call it show that Johnny Discgolf does on YouTube. He basically posts like just straight up interviews with players. And he did one with Kevin Jones, just kind of like catching up on the offseason. At the end, he asked Kevin, like, hey, is there anything you want to tease? Any big announcements? And Kevin was like, yeah, I got a big announcement coming soon. He confirmed his contract with Prodigy is up this year. We already knew that. And then he was teasing that there's going to be a big announcement. He wouldn't say the company that he's going with or anything like that. So there's kind of two conflicting sides to this, right? In one breath, Kevin is saying, like, my contract's up. I have done a sick video with, and then he would say the company. He wouldn't allude to what company that was. So that part is alluding to Kevin leaving Prodigy. But then in the next breath, Kevin is saying, yeah, with my contract being up, it's up to me to renegotiate. So renegotiate would obviously mean I'm renegotiating with the company I'm with. So is Kevin Jones staying with Prodigy or is Kevin Jones leaving? My personal thing that I think that what we're about to see is Kevin Jones signing a very lucrative deal that Prodigy is going to make public. I think that Kevin Jones is staying with Prodigy, and I think the big announcement is his deal with Prodigy. And I think we're going to see a video. He also said they were going to announce it before the end of the year, which I think also alludes to him staying with Prodigy. I could be completely wrong there. I just think that's what's going to end up happening. I think that this is a big re-signing for Prodigy. Just because of the renegotiate. I feel like the renegotiate was him slipping up a little bit when he said that. And then, him alluding to the company was him kind of trying to stir up the rumors. But Silas, if Kevin does leave, if Kevin is gone from Prodigy, where does he go?
Oh.
Where does Kevin Jones fit?
Where does Kevin Jones fit? Man. There could be a lot of places, I feel like.
Yeah.
But maybe just like a dark horse company, like I don't know. Maybe Latitude. Honestly.
Okay.
Maybe Latitude.
Yeah, I was thinking kind of like dynamic discs, possibly.
Yeah, possibly.
But do you
think the contract, if he does go with Prodigy, do you think that the numbers will be released?
Yeah, so in my head, I think that's what the thing is I think that...
Okay.
I think that's what the announcement is, personally.
Yeah.
I think they're doing a video to release like a 2-year, $1.5 million deal or something like that, where people are going to be... like, it's going to be a deal that... Because I think that what's happening is companies have seen the press that Discraft got for the 10 years, 10 mil.
Yeah.
Incredible press, incredible hype. Then Latitude released the Kristen Tatar 3-year, 500,000, whatever what her deal was. They released her numbers.
Yeah.
To where I think that if I'm Prodigy and I'm looking back and I'm seeing the press that was it Westside or Latitude? Latitude's getting for the Kristen Tatar deal, Discraft's getting for the Paul deal. I'm thinking if we lock down Kevin Jones because his contract's up and we sign him to a big contract, if we're going to put that money into him, we might as well make the thing public to be like, hey, we're paying a player this much.
Do you think that forces the hand on other companies to do the same thing and follow in their footsteps?
I don't know if it forces their hand to publicly say it, but I do think that behind the scenes we're seeing players start to realize how much other players are making and
start to question their contract.
Yeah, I think that's why this year we've seen an abnormally large amount of players leaving contracts early, or at least rumors of contracts being left early. The Nikko one, the Ricky rumor, Eric Oakley left his contract early, so on and so forth. And I think part of that is contracts starting to become a little bit more public, a little bit more well-known, even if it's not truly public, where they're more well-known behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So that if you're a player in Kevin Jones' shoes, you're sitting there and you can kind of start to gauge your worth. And if Kevin signs one and that goes public, then I think it might cause issues for Prodigy on the Chris Dickerson and Katrina Allen side, if that's true. If my whole speculation of Kevin Jones staying with Prodigy is true, because if I'm Chris Dickerson and I am regularly beating or competing with Kevin Jones for the same team, and now I see Kevin Jones making more than me, that's going to cause some strife. It's actually, I was just watching, I'm way behind on this, but the Formula One Netflix documentary.
Oh, jeez.
I just started watching that.
Man.
Last night. I know I'm way behind.
But
in the first season, there's 2 drivers for Red Bull, and Red Bull committed to, I believe his name was Max, the like worst driver of the 2, but the younger driver of the 2, and signed him to a bigger deal than Daniel Ricciardo, I believe is his name, who was their better, more premier driver at the time, but he was a little bit older. And so it put Daniel in a situation of like, what the heck? So then it made contention within them to where like the next race, all Max wanted to do was prove he was a better driver than Daniel. And he wrecked his car in the qualifying round. So like he ended up starting at the back, and then Daniel went out and won the race. So then it kind of is putting pressure on Red Bull at this point in the documentary of like, hey, you better pay me what I'm worth or else I'm leaving. I think we could see that type of thing start happening within companies of like, if companies keep making things public, and let's just go again with the speculation that Kevin Jones stays with Prodigy and signed a big deal, then if I'm Chris Dickerson, I might be like, hey, you better give me a similar deal or I'm looking at my other options. Or if I'm Katrina Allen even, and I'm looking at, Kevin Jones close to the top of the MPO, Katrina Allen top of FPO, I'm looking at his deal and being like, okay, well, I need to be kind of getting close to that, or at least I need to be comparable to Paige. Now that Paige's numbers are a little bit more public, not really, but if I'm Katrina Allen, I probably have a good gauge of what Paige is making. I'm saying, hey, Prodigy, I can find a company that'll do what Discraft's doing for Paige for me. Is that company going to be you? I don't know. I think it's definitely going to be interesting, but I'm very curious if Kevin Jones does leave. I think if Kevin leaves, I personally think Innova is where he ends up. I don't think it's a good fit for Kevin. I don't like the move, but I think if he did leave, I've just heard a lot of rumors of players leaving Innova, and surely at least some of them are true, if not all of them are true. And if that's the case, then Innova is going to be losing some higher tier talent, and they'll have gaps to fill. And like, for instance, when Paul left Innova was quick to fill it with Rick. So if Rick or some of the other players that I've heard are rumored to be leaving Innova, then I think they'd be quick to fill it with a player like Kevin Jones.
Who do you think would fill the Prodigy kind of face of the company, if you will?
Chris Dickerson. I think right now there's already a battle between like Chris and Kevin.
Okay.
As to like when you hear Prodigy, who you think of first.
Yeah.
So I think if Kevin did leave, Prodigy would be the smartest to double down on Chris, because Chris has the talent, and I think he's a very marketable person. You just have to give him the right situations to be marketed, and I think he has the talent to compete. So,
do you think that he would then participate in the full tour?
Well, I mean, let me look at his last season, because I think he pretty much did fully tour last year. I think the people kind of don't realize that Dickerson's been touring more and more kind of as years have gone on, just because in the past he didn't really tour at all. So it looks like his tour started at Waco, and I'm trying to count up just Pro Tours. So Pro Tours, he played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He played 8 Pro Tours. I'm not counting the match play, but I am counting the Pro Tour Championship in that. So pretty full tour, quote unquote, because he also snuck in some national tours in there. He just doesn't go fully out west.
Right.
So when players are going fully out west, he's still in Tennessee, cleaning house there. And then once the tour starts to go Midwest is when he starts. But I could see him, if Prodigy fully committed to him and was like, hey, we're willing to give you this type of contract, but you need to be like all in on tour. Yeah, I think you'd do it.
Yeah.
Some other offseason news as we wrap this up. Adam Hammes signed a 3-year extension with Discraft. Not sure if he mentioned that last week. Eric Stenchcombe is staying with Westside Disc for a year. And Macy Veladiaz is staying with Dynamic Discs for a year. That could be a big pickup or keep for Dynamic Discs, as I believe Macy's planning on touring again next year. And she could definitely be pushing towards the top of FPO. So we'll keep an eye on. Hopefully next week we'll know where Kevin Jones is going, or if he's going anywhere, and we'll be able to kind of get everyone's reaction on that. Now, one thing I'll also say before we get into some more news that came out is I was like browsing Reddit this morning while I was working out because I was bored and wanted something to read. So I was just scrolling through Reddit, and I came across this brand elimination game that someone's been putting on Reddit, and it's pretty thrilling. So essentially what they did is they put in, it looks like 16 brands into a graphic, and then they had people vote on what their least favorite brand was on Reddit, and then they eliminate them to basically rank the brands from 1 to 16.
Yeah.
So and then they made these funny graphics is what caught me after. So in 16th place right now, well, not right now, it's official. 16th place in this thing was DGA, which surprised me.
Oh.
And then in 15th place, they had Legacy. And they made the Legacy logo say Legacy slipped disc, and then put Steve Rico on like the old man from Family Guy, it looks like, which is very funny. 14th place, Millennium, and they have freaking like Scooby-Doo when what's the guy's name in Scooby-Doo? The blonde.
Shaggy.
No, sorry, the other blonde. Fred? Is that his name?
Sure.
Fred. We're going to call him Fred. When Fred like pulls the mask off of him and it reveals like it was someone the whole time. And so it's Millennium and he's pulling it off and it's just Innova. 13th place is Prodigy. And they just have like the confused person's face with all their disc names around. 12th place is Gateway, which that was where it got surprising, is that Gateway beat Prodigy.
I was going to say
Millennium, Legacy, and DGA.
High up?
Yeah.
Okay.
11th place was
Gateway.
I'm guessing Streamline, because it's confusing because MVP and Axiom are still in, but the graphic has James Conrad, Axiom, and Streamline MVP in it, so I don't really know. But 11th is Streamline, and then 10th is Infinite, 9th is Dynamic Discs, and so then the brands that are still in are Axiom, Discmania, Discraft, Innova, Latitude 64, Castplast, Westside, and MVP. I don't know. I just thought it was entertaining. More so the graphics that they were making for these companies I thought was pretty funny. Of like they were memeing the companies after they lost.
Yeah.
Because like Dynamic Discs, they have basically Paige Pierce walking away from a burning house. That is Dynamic Discs, which that's just funny. So maybe we'll just keep up with that because that's something fun to look at. Final piece of news for this show before we get into the 2021 wrap up and look at 2022 was the 2023 PDGA major locations have been announced. It looks like Worlds is coming back to Vermont, where Greg Barsby won in 2018. Pretty excited to have that back. I like Worlds in Vermont. Great courses. Scrolling down here, there's a lot of like Junior Worlds, Am Worlds, all that stuff. United States Women's Disc Golf Championship is coming to Burlington, North Carolina, which that's exciting. That's like 2 hours
close.
South of us at Cedar Rock Park, I believe.
Very nice.
Really, really fun course I played down there. I believe they're going to bring back they have like this like hybrid course they do there. I could be wrong, but I think that's what they're bringing back. Only thing I don't like about that is that they're not making Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championship a major. They're keeping U.S. Women's, which is weird just because Throw Pink Women's this past year felt like a bigger tournament than U.S. Women's. So like in my head, just make U.S. Women's and USDGC on the same weekend and let them both play with
Wasn't the Throw Pink on the USDGC weekend? Mm-hmm. That's so weird.
Yeah, well, and Throw Pink Women's is just an A tier.
Yeah.
So like the winner of that like Missy Gannon won it, and it felt like she won a major, but she didn't.
But it's just A tier.
She won an A tier. Like it was less than a Pro Tour win, but it felt bigger because there's already a major going on and it's at the same courses.
Yeah.
So definitely interesting decision to keep the U.S. Women's there instead of going Throw Pink Women's, but hey, it is what it is. And the final one they announced for the pro scene is the PDGA Champions Cup is going to be moving to Milford, Michigan in 2023 at the Toboggan Course where D-Glow is. I personally, I've made my opinion on this loud and clear. I want to hear actually Trevor's opinion when he's back. I really thought this course was going to stay at WR Jackson, and that's part of what made me very excited for this tournament. Having another rotating major, the issue with disc golf right now is these tournaments don't have a big like way to like USDGC is the only one you really, really have to qualify for. The Champions Cup initially said there's going to be some qualification type things, but then I think it's just like tiered rating. I don't fully know what's going on with Champions Cup. Hopefully Champions Cup does have some type of qualification process behind it, and then I'll feel a little better about it. But if it's not, then it's essentially just like, what's the difference between this and Worlds other than the title is why I don't like it. Like having two, because like there's only so many courses right now that if you're not parked at one and you can turn that, like WR Jackson, you could turn into the Champions Cup course, kind of like USDGC did with Winthrop Gold, and you're just rotating. Like Worlds and PDJ Champions Cup, like they're gonna end up kind of going to the same spots here and there. Like where it's starting in Appling, Georgia, was already where Worlds was in 2017 or something.
Oh wow.
Or I don't know. Yeah, I think 2017.
So would you like to see more qualifications on tournaments?
Majors especially, yes. I think the Pro Tour needs a tour card, which they're already working on, but I think it needs to be like a legit tour card where if you don't have a tour card, you don't play.
Yeah.
Majors, I think that they can each have unique ones. Like USDGC has qualifying events. Love that. I don't think USDGC really needs to change. If it did change, you could look at trying to make it more true to the name of USDGC. Like, I don't know exactly what I mean by that, but something where it's more like national qualification base where people are representing states or something. But USDGC format, good, love it. Worlds, I definitely think needs some type of qualification because like there's no need for as many people to play Worlds as currently play Worlds, and there's also no need for a player of my caliber to be able to play in a professional world championship.
Yeah.
But that happens.
Right.
Like
that shouldn't be allowed.
Like the world championship should be the best of the best competing for a world title. So I think Worlds needs an even stricter qualification process than USDGC, whether it just be world ranking or I don't know what they exactly want to do, maybe Pro Tour points or something. I have no idea, but I think Worlds should definitely have it. And then Champions Cup, I think Champions Cup is where we can like kind of experiment, maybe bring in some, I don't know, maybe you have like more local qualifying events in addition to X amount from the Pro Tour, because you always want a major to have the best of the best players.
Right.
But I'm okay with a major expanding to where like some AMs are allowed in. Like maybe the top 10 finishers at AM Worlds get in or something like that.
That'd be cool.
To where you have the best of the best at Champions Cup and they're going to win. Right. But you at least have a storyline of like other players that got in. I'd be okay with like experimenting in that way. They tried experimenting with the format earlier to separate it. Don't touch the format. Like just it's disc golf, just play singles or stroke play, I mean. But I'd be okay with experimenting with the major in the qualification process of like who actually gets to play the major. I think that might go well. But yeah, we'll definitely bring the major locations, especially the Champions Cup one, back up once we have Trevor and Konner back, because I want to hear especially Trevor's take on it, because Trevor has a good idea of like how golf does majors and stuff like that, to where he can always provide a good perspective on that. So, yeah, but 2021 is officially coming to an end. Today's December 29th, so we got 2 more days in 2021, and then the next time you'll hear us on Grip Locked will be in 2022. 2021, though, was pretty incredible. It was better than we imagined, we could have ever imagined, really. Grip Locked, the show you're listening to right now, grew, I mean, into a much, much bigger podcast than we ever expected. When the year started, I don't even try to think if we were even in this studio. I think the year started in we were in this space, but we were like in a much weirder, I think the wall was just black behind us or something. I don't know. But it was because it just wasn't something that seemed worth our investment in time to build out and make into something. But as the year went on, it became more and more of a focus of ours, mainly because of you, the listeners, where that we couldn't ignore kind of the momentum we were getting with Grip Locked and stuff like that, to where we quickly started to realize like, hey, this is actually a big part of our business. This is a big part of Foundation, is the podcast. And by the end of the year, at this point in public, if I do get recognized, which is rare, don't take this as I get recognized all the time, but if I do, it's more times than our YouTube channel, it's for our podcast, which is kind of crazy because our YouTube channel is bigger than our podcast, obviously, and it gets a little bit more views than our podcast. But I think it's just, it's always cool to me when someone comes up and recognizes me for Grip Locked. That makes me feel better because like if you like our videos, you might just like the stupid stuff we do on the course. But if you like the podcast, like you literally, it's just me and Trevor or Connor and Silas now talking to where like if you like Grip Locked, that means you actually like us.
Right.
So that makes me feel better when people like Grip Locked. But no, Grip Locked and all the podcasts really in 2021, Debate Night came in and gave Grip Locked run for its money, listener wise, right from the get go and everything like that. It was a crazy 21 year, and you're about to see some pretty big things on the podcast side. Grip Locked looks and feel wise won't change much, if at all. But Debate Night and the Bogey Bro Banter, we're going to be building out their own studios now because, again, they've both been growing to where we can now see the investment and make sense for us to build out their own studios. If you're also a fan of the podcast channel, you might know of our show, the Nick and Matt Show. We signed them at the beginning of this year to a 1-year contract. That contract is now up, and Nick Carl wants to tour a little bit more. Matt Graham got a promotion in his job that's going to require him to be on the road a little bit more, so they came to us and basically said like, hey guys, for the next year we don't know how much we can be committed to doing the Nick and Matt Show, and they wanted to move on and go back to doing it on their own channel simply because they didn't want to have the outside pressure of they have to do X amount of shows. Because like, for instance, you've listened to the show, obviously. One of our big sponsors of this show and the Nick and Matt Show throughout the year has been Manscaped. And Manscaped asks us, well, not asks, it's in our contract that we have to do X amount of shows per month, X amount of ad reads per month. And so that's also in the Nick and Matt Show side of the contract. And for instance, if more of those ads keep coming into the Foundation Podcast Network and more keep getting funneled to Nick and Matt, they didn't want the pressure of having to do 3-4 podcasts a month when Nick might be on the road and Matt might be traveling. It just wouldn't have worked out. So they would rather, be on their own and have a little bit more flexibility to where if they want to pop on a Friday night and do a quick 5-minute show or 10-minute show and then, be able to do 1 or 2 episodes a month or whatever they want to do, they wanted that flexibility. And so they decided to move on and go back to their old YouTube channel. So that'll be starting for them back up in January. And we'll look for a way to still kind of bring you that type of content here. We've got some ideas in the works of what we can do to kind of still fill that, because we definitely think that that's something that we want on the Foundation Podcast Network, that style of show. And so we're going to have something coming in 2022 that'll fill that slot. Not sure exactly what it'll be yet, but we have some ideas that I think you'll really like. Some other big things for 2022, if you're a Patreon member or you're interested in our Patreon, we're fully reworking the tiers. We're renaming the Patreon to be called the Heiser Club. And then we're going to have 3 tiers, the Member, Elite, and Hall of Fame tiers. And there's a lot of benefits in that. I'm not going to bore you with all the ins and outs if you don't want to hear it, but January 1st, definitely go check out the Patreon. All of them will be up to date by then. They might actually be up. Brody said he was going to work on it today, so I don't know if they'll be up today or not, but in 2 days, they'll definitely be up. January 1st, you can check it out. One of the benefits, though, is ad-free Grip Locked. So if, like we were talking about, there's a lot of people that support us, a lot of advertisers that support us. If you want to be able to listen to Grip Locked ad-free, that's one of the benefits of the lower tier. There's also a lot of bonus content, behind the scenes stuff, some bonus podcasts, all of that stuff, and we're adding more. Cannot wait for Patreon in 2022. 2021 Patreon was a great year. I believe we were able to accomplish a lot of the stuff we wanted to do. We just had to rework it a little bit simply because some of the tiers had like physical, tangible rewards, and with COVID and supply chain issues, that kind of just made it a logistical nightmare on our end to have something that's guaranteed to people that they're paying up front, and then we couldn't guarantee that we were going to fill it by the end of that month. So there were some months where it was 2 weeks into the next month before we could fill the previous month, and we didn't like it. We didn't want to do that again. We didn't want to risk that again. So we made sure that everything in the Patreon for 2022 is stuff that's actually under our control. So it's fully media-based, fully stuff that we create, we curate. So basically, as long as we're living and breathing, we can get those benefits to our Patreons and not feel, there wasn't a single month that went by that a Patreon didn't get their benefit, but it still sometimes like felt like we were letting people down just because like the Marble tier, it might have come the 30th of the month and we're announcing the next month's item and this month item hadn't come in yet. And you can see where that, like, even though it did eventually come, where people would be like, well, why am I going to pay for another month? I haven't even got this month's thing. So it was just stuff that we didn't like. We didn't hear a ton of complaints or anything. It's just we were looking at it and we weren't comfortable keeping that same thing moving forward. So we revamped it. And I personally think that the tier values, like what you get for your money, have drastically went up compared to last year. I think that if you're interested in supporting Foundation Disc Golf beyond just giving us your listens and stuff like that, which we greatly appreciate, and if you're in a financial position to do so, I definitely think that if you're a fan of Foundation, there's some great benefits to our Patreon. And again, that'll be all published on January 1st. One of the tiers actually has access to it's all called the Heiser Club now. Access to the Heiser Club store, where you can get like exclusive merch, exclusive stuff like that, so you can rep stuff that's only for you. So then when you're rocking it on the course and everyone's like, what the heck, you can be like, yeah, I'm better than you. That's something that can come through the Patreon. All jokes there, but really though, I'm very excited for the Heiser Club. I think that people are really going to like it. We're also going to hopefully be expanding our team a little bit in 2022. One of our main focuses in 2022 is improving our customer service. I think our customer service is a little backed up right now. I think that's why it kind of feels like a bigger need than it is. Throughout the year, we've been able to typically respond within a business day. But as we hope to continue to expand the media side, it's going to be pulling our customer service person, Trevor, away from customer service and into more media stuff. So we're going to hopefully be bringing someone on that can handle all of our customer service, all of that stuff. So then if you call Foundation, email Foundation, you're hearing back not within a business day, but within the same business day, within a matter of hours, maybe even less. That's the goal, so that we can have customer service that is on top of it. And that's definitely one of our big goals for 2022. We're also hopefully expanding our content creation team, adding another personality or maybe even two. And speaking of teams, we do still have, it's official, we have 2 Team Foundation members. Both players are on tour. Not going to tell you MPO or FPO. Those 2 are locked in. We'll be adding up to 4 total. So 2 are locked in, up to 4. You can continue guessing. That announcement hopefully will come late January, early February is the plan, because we want to announce it right. We want to do everything right. So you're not going to hear, I'm not going to confirm or deny anyone that you comment, but feel free to keep commenting and guessing, because that is coming down the pipe, and we're very excited about that. And a few final things. We do have an in-person store coming in 2022. Very excited. Actually, I just got a text from the builder last night that they're going to be coming in next week to begin the framing of the wall and everything. It's going to be here. And we're also, what that's going to allow is the front of it is going to be our retail store, where you can come in, shop. It's not going to be a massive store, but it'll allow us to kind of do pop-up signings and stuff like that. And if you're local to the area, you'll have a spot that you can come in and shop our inventory. We'll also do some custom runs just for our store and stuff like that. We're kind of just getting our feet wet with an in-person store, seeing how it goes. And then if it goes well, we'll be able to expand to bigger and bigger. But what that also is going to allow is the back half that we're sitting in right now, we're going to fully develop into our media and studio offices. So essentially, each podcast is going to have its own studio, and then our media team will be able to work here, where the Wi-Fi is a little bit better and the ambiance is in a warehouse. We'll just put it that way. That way we don't have Konner sitting in a warehouse editing the YouTube videos, because that's what's going on right now. It's working, but he's definitely excited to move back into here. So actually, we're all excited. Everyone that's going to be working here is very excited. So that is going to be coming hopefully early January. And we're going to have a much bigger focus on media in 2022. 2021, one of our big goals was to grow our retail side. We blew all of our numbers, all of our goals out of the water on the retail side. I can't believe, the amount of support and everything we've received there. So our goal now is kind of keep that momentum going on the retail side. We've kind of figured out a few different things that have worked, and we're going to kind of keep churning that away, and then put our main focus on the media side in 2022, kind of expand again, add a new show, launch a new site, all kinds of stuff like that, and continue to produce more content, possibly add a 3rd video a week to our main channel, and maybe even a 2nd video a week to our Foundation Nation channel. and just continue putting our heads down and grinding it out. 2022, based on our plans and what we hope to do, it should be our biggest year yet. Again, every single year we've went into, we've seen tremendous growth and tremendous support from you all, and I cannot thank you all enough. And hopefully 2022 brings the same thing. So I don't even know how long I just rambled for, but there it is. That is 2021 all wrapped up. That's a little look at our 2022 plans, and we're very excited. And again, we could not do any of this without all of you listening, watching our videos, watching our podcasts, watching whatever random challenges we do, supporting the Foundation Nation channel, supporting us on Patreon. Each and every one of you mean the world to us, and y'all are what keeps us going day after day. And we really appreciate all of you. If you want to check out our website, you can head over to foundationdisc.com. If you want to learn more about the Patreon and check out the Heiser Club tiers, that should all be published again here within the next few days. Do not purchase until January 1st if it does go up before then, simply because if you buy right now, it's the worst time to buy for Patreon, because Patreon, I don't know why, it just charges you, like if I paid right now the 29th of December, it's going to charge me, like let's say the $5 tier, charging me $5 today, and then it'll charge $5 on January 1st. And I've tried changing it, I can't. So when you're listening to this, hold off, hold your excitement. January 1st purchase, that way you're not double charged within the next 2 days. If you are, DM us, we'll refund you for the first one. But definitely go check out patreon.com/foundation disc golf. You'll be able to see all the updated tiers and see if you're interested in all of them. If you're a fan of Foundation's content, I definitely think you're going to be interested in at least one of the tiers. I think the $5 tier is the best value if you're just interested in content and you don't care about discounts to our store, early access, all of that stuff. The $5 tier gets you a whole lot for that. So we really appreciate each and every one of you, and we can't wait for 2022. Silas, you got anything to wrap up the show? Wrap up the season?
Wrap up the show and season. Well,
it's your first time on Grip Lock, and I'm giving you the opportunity to wrap out 2021.
I know, I'm honored here. I don't know, just from the outside looking in, Grip Lock has just grown so much over the past year, as well as like all the podcasts and the content. So like Hunter said, without your support, guys, we wouldn't be able to produce this stuff and produce this content for you guys. So a big shout out to everyone listening, and yeah, that's a wrap.
Boom. Couldn't have said it better myself.
2021, that's a wrap.
That's it. We'll talk to you all next week. Next Wednesday, we'll have everyone back, hopefully, and start off 2022 with a bang. Thank you all so much for listening.